Okay. Good morning, everyone. How was morning tea? Did you get the little chocolatey thing with the meringue? Did anyone get that? No? No? Oh, you did? Oh, that was a guess, because I've got a little confession to make. I only had 5 minutes to get there, and I got completely lost in Te Papa, so I actually haven't even registered yet, so that's a bit of a slight on me. You're going to need the energy for this one. This is going to be a fantastic session. Can I just ask, how many people consider themselves as visual people? Wow. Okay, Lynn, this might work. How many people consider them not visual people? Oh, there's a few. You've got your work cut out a bit there. So Ed's already done a little bit of a profile intro to Lynn, so I won't go through that. I'm just going to share a little bit of a story, so a very short story. I attended Lynn's course last year, it was sometime last year, and she came in with this claim that she could teach anyone to draw. Now, I have to say that what I produce now, since that session, I wouldn't consider drawing, but I would say that she has been able to teach me to communicate via drawing. And I think that's the key thing about this, about what she's going to talk about today. So it's really around the visualization and being able to communicate through pictures. So without further ado, this is going to be a really fun session. So I shall now introduce Lynne Cazaly.
Thank you. It sounds like a great session. I think I want to be part of it as well. Welcome. If any of you've walked in going, oh, sketchbook, marker, oh, I'm shit at drawing. Anyone have that thought as they walked in? Or I'm ace at drawing, I will totally nail this. Yeah, a few of you. Well, just so you know, I'm iPadding today, so I will be zooming and drawing and sketching, and the app I'm using is called Brushes, but if you've got a tablet, digital device with you, there are so many drawing apps, and you know I've tried so many of them that I reckon you just get one and start playing around with it. Apps like Brushes, Forge, Sketch Club, Sketchbook Pro, ArtPad, Paper, the list goes on. And my stylus today is my finger. Well, often it's that finger, unfortunately. And I'll be filling some visual gaps here. And I will have the presentation available at the end of the session. And I'll also have a couple of other things for you to support you with this. What's also fun when you're using your iPad is that sometimes little notifications come through, particularly if you're connected to Wi-Fi. And thanks so much, as an Australian, for the All Blacks scarf as a gift. I did back a winning side. And I let my husband Michael know about it, and he sent me a message that just came through on the iPad before, and it simply said the 2 words, burn it. But I think in Wellington I'm going to need it. So if you've got one of these sketchbooks with you, you might want to get it open, start doodling, because people who doodle have deeper learning experiences. They have greater memory recall, and they are just altogether nicer people than people who are sitting there going. So if you want to suspend your tweeting and digital texting stuff and just go analogue, just go lo-fi for the next 45 minutes, and then you can switch back if you dare. But I look forward to running this session with you today, because I'm working with Agile teams over the last 5 or 6 years. I hear lots of those messages around we want to build better software quicker, and we want to be more innovative, and we want to deliver value, and we want to be more productive and leverage our time. But we also want to be people that play well with others. And you know Dr. Phil on TV, the pop psychologist. And when he's dishing out advice to husbands and wives and partners, he'll often ask the question, how much fun are you to live with? How much fun are you to live with? That's what Dr. Phil says. It happens in the workplace as well. How much fun are you to work with? You know, are you one of those people that just deplete the energy in the room, or are you someone that actually brings it and others in the room go, thank goodness they're here. This is going to be an awesome gathering. So with that in mind, That's fine, but we're in a bit of a crazy world. Or as Joe, the security guard at a client's offices, he says, man, it's cray-cray out there. Joe, the security guard who sees the comings and goings in a large corporate office, last week I said to him, hey Joe, how you going? He's like, man, I'll tell you what, it's crazy out there. There is comings and goings, there is rumour, there is gossip. The world's gone crazy, man, huh? I said, sure, Joe, sure, I hear you. This is the sort of thing we experience in the work world all the time. I said, what do you reckon's going on? He says, you know what? I think one day the shit is going to hit the fan. I cannot tell you how much shit or when he's going to hit, but one day, the shit is going to hit the fan. So that's his perception, seeing the comings and goings and the turbulence in this world that has the name of VUCA. You've probably, or you may not have heard that acronym: volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. So finally, the cray-cray world that Joe refers to, the military coined the acronym VUCA. And I think it kind of looks like this, that in the Volatility Index, firstly, says, it's this Volatility Index is really quite serious. It says how volatile things are, and they continue to say that the Volatility Index is off the scale in terms of the changes and the restructures and the upheavals that are going on not only in our markets but in communities and countries all over the world. So it does feel a bit like that when it comes week to week in the volatility side of things. There's also uncertainty, and I think the quadrant, the management quadrant, probably looks something like this. There's uncertain, we're unsure, and we're also unknown. So when you're working through that quadrant, you'll be able to pinpoint with great uncertainty where you are. But apparently there's an anonymous quote out there, an anonymous quote that says, there's been an alarming increase in the number of things we know nothing about. Unfortunately, an anonymous quote, but we are continually struggling with the uncertainties in the world. And that's pretty much what Joe, the cray-cray security guard, was talking about. Now, here is the complexity conundrum. This is the C of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity. And I think when you're stuck right in the middle of it, you're really knee-deep in shit, You can't get out. Or you think you're getting out, you think you're coming to some knowing and some sense and some meaning, and then something else, Tetris-like, jumps in and shuffles things around, and again we find ourselves in another layer or another level of complexity. Organisation charts change, roles, titles, names change, and damn it if the barista in the cafe across the road keeps changing, that you just can't find that coffee that you want. And then the A of VUCA, of ambiguity, and this is, I believe, the ambiguity matrix of really the critical question that we wonder and are uncertain about each day is, did I leave the iron on? Did I leave the iron on when I left? Otherwise, we're struggling throughout the day to go, what's going on? But I think the Agile field, the industry, we're so good at responding to VUCA. We're used to uncertainty, we're used to things changing. But sometimes some of the other people we work with aren't so good at that. And so here's what I want to do with you today, that even though we go home at night and the news reader says good evening, and then they proceed to tell us how it's not, and you can get pizza delivered to your door quicker than the police. These are the sorts of worlds we're working in. And leaders are expected to be even more collaborative, even more human, even more vulnerable when they're working with remote and distributed teams and very diverse cultures. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig being a member of any team, let alone a leader of a team, or an Agile coach, or a Scrum Master or any of the roles, any iteration managers, developers, any of the team players, that we're having to deal not only with each other, but also some of the non-believers beyond our midst. So I often wonder, what's the future of work going to be like as volatility keeps going on? What is it that humans truly bring to the working experience? And given things are unknown, the uncertainty is one of the greatest human fears we have. If any of you have waited for medical results, that place where you've had the test and now you're wondering, what the fuck is going to happen? It's called liminality, that place, the limbo in between here and there. And it happens throughout the day, every day. And given uncertainty and the unknown is such a great fear, how can we reduce these, what are called fur balls of complexity? Fur balls of complexity that get stuck in our throat, the fur balls of uncertainty of things we don't know, or what I call cognitive clutter. There is so much going on. How do we cut through it and make sense of it? So when you're working with others, I reckon there's kind of two things going on. And firstly, there could be, who in the room here is more of a thought person? That is, you have what I'd call a thought track. You think about stuff before you communicate it, before you write it. Okay, so we've got a range of thought track people. This is a visual for you. You can copy this. It's a thought bubble. So I call that a thought track. We think stuff before we deliver it. And then I think there are also some people who are a bit more about what I'd say a talk track. You know these people. Anyone in the room who needs to talk to work out what they're thinking? So you've got to go on a bit of a ramble before you get to that point. So there are some thought tracks and talk tracks, and you might be a little bit different at different times. But the end result is our thinking creates content and information and ideas that we then need to share with people, with either the people we're working with or the people we'd like to work with or the people we live with. That there's stuff we're thinking about, and no matter how good a driver we are not all above average drivers. The same thing with communication. We are not all above average. So today I want to kind of raise with you how you might be able to engage with people quicker, deeper, clearer, so you can get on with other stuff. Look at that productivity, look at being more lean, less wasteful, more engaging, more human, more vulnerable, more inspiring, more teal. Who got the teal and green coloured markers as they were coming in the door? Yeah, was there fighting? Was there bickering? Don't give me red. I do not want a red marker. So what we're looking at here is these thoughts, these talks, the thinking, the content we come up with, and how we then might deliver it to people. And I think this, a serious quadrant now, this is what I'm talking about, is on the vertical axis we can be quite quick and brief and succinct with our communication, or we could be long and slow and drawn out down the bottom. Over here we can be tangled, amorphous, that is, there is no form, there is no structure. It's unformed, versus over here where information is clear, it's been distilled, filtered, like pristine rivers flowing throughout the country. So when we look at the delivery of our information and the content that we're creating to deliver, here's some stuff that goes on. You know someone, don't you? You know someone who goes on, and their thinking is a little tangled, but they're probably doing a bit of that thought track stuff where they're going na 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 and talk track la 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 la, trying to work out what they think. And interpreters call this bleeding ears syndrome. So you are waiting for that person to get to their point, and it takes so long to get to that point that your ears are bleeding. So interpreters and translators talk about this, that sometimes content and accents and the cultural diversity we have can be so challenging to listen to that we're missing the content because we're struggling to make sense of that, sing-song, the sound of people's voices. So I think one of the reasons why you want to get some great clarity in your communication engagement is to avoid the bleeding ear syndrome for your workmates, because that doesn't make you a great person to work with. But if we keep it long and slow, but gee, they've distilled their message, but why won't they shut up? It's a little bit like War and Peace. And I'd call this the epic masterpiece. And I have a couple of friends who I love listening to, but not when I only have 30 seconds. I need time to devote to people who are delivering me the epic masterpiece. I need a bit of warning that they have thought of all this information, but it's going to take them a long time to deliver it. However, those that deliver information quickly, briefly, those tangled mess people, they swing into the room and there's a cloud of dust behind them and they deliver. It's a train wreck. It really is. They leave their mess all over the ground. I would call them mess makers because they've come in. You might think you're on track, everything's going well, and all of a sudden things have been taken off. So apart from those that have that bleeding ear syndrome, too long, no form, epic masterpieces that are long and quite well thought out, but time's a ticking, and the people that have that train wreck way of communicating. What we'd like to do is get to the area that is quick and brief, the content is distilled, you've nailed it, it's clear, it's distilled. And that I call sweet clarity. Sweet clarity. Not brevity, doesn't have to be short, doesn't have to be overly simple, but people look and listen and hear it and they go, sweet. They say, that's sweet, got it, nailed it. So these are what I would call the sense makers, the people who are able to walk into a situation, work out what's going on and then convey that to others or facilitate a situation where they can help others get to meaning and get to understanding as well. Remember, uncertainty, unknown. This is fearful stuff for people, to not know what's going on. The sooner you can get to knowing from unknowing, the sooner you can get to knowing, the safer people will feel. When people feel safe, they contribute. When people feel safe, they engage. When people can see some possibility, some certainty, some hint of certainty from uncertainty, their shoulders go down and they start to give. So I wonder, do you oscillate around any of these areas, or are you someone who's a breaker of these sorts of barriers? Some people brighten up a room just by leaving it. I want you to be the sort of person that when they see you coming, they go, wow, we're going to get some shit done now. And we're going to get some shit done because this person is going to make sense of uncertainty. The person that makes sense of uncertainty, I think, is a visual facilitator. And I think this is the kind of skill, the role, the expertise that we need for the future of work. I think this is some of the stuff that machines, technology won't be able to take from us. Because visual facilitators are able to present the current reality. That's what's so sweet about it, is that you can help people work out where they are. In shopping centres, you go to the map, you are here. I want to get there. I was seeing some people at an event, the Grand Prix motor race, and people walked in right near the gate, a massive map, and you could see a group of people standing there. Trying to GPS themselves, trying to globally position themselves. That's it, where am I? Trying to orient themselves in uncertainty. And their tension goes down, they get some clarity and they're able to go on. So I think the productive leaders and team members of today are visual facilitators. I think they draw information out of people. They elicit information. They don't blame the person for not being engaged. They elicit information from people in the team. It's just what they do. It's just how they are. In the words of contemporary philosopher Katy Perry, you know, she says, "This is how we do, this is how we do." And I think these are the facilitators of today, is that facilitation means to make easy, to make progress. You can facilitate yourself, you can facilitate your significant others and your family, you can facilitate your team. You don't have to have the label of facilitator. You are simply making progress easy. You are helping people get shit done. So one of the problems I think that happens is this. This goes on a little bit too much. So if I'm going to show a nice Venn diagram for you, there's talking, there's a bit more talking and a bit more talking. And we sit down or we stand up and we do lots of talking, which is so verbal. It's such a verbal soundtrack. How many of you said we're visual? Yeah, we're visual. Oh, we've got story cards and story walls and tables and visual. Yeah. So bring more visual tools to everything you do. Reduces uncertainty, makes people feel safe, makes people want to contribute. So when people aren't listening, and listening to the blah blah of the bleeding ears and the war and peace and the train wreck, not good. So what I want to share with you is this idea of having 3-point communication, not 1 point. 1 point is you and your sketchbook there. You're looking at it. You have got 1 point of communication. 2-point communication is where we're communicating, me and you. You and I, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'm looking at you, it just starts to get a bit weird, doesn't it, our eye contact? So we've got to break our eye contact and we look away. If you think performance conversations, interviews, you know, the tension starts to rise. That's because we've only got 2 points of communication. Go for 3 points. So that's you, me, and over here, this is the visual tool. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1. So this is known as 3 points of communication. You'll get deeper engagement quicker. Anyone here working with users, in user experience, in design, working with customers, use visual tools, you will get deeper content quicker than just sitting around talking. You'll have less conflict. Okay, so mediators know that if they get away from just the 2-point communication of conversation, but they put the parties' views visually, they're now spreading it to 3-point communication, and you're actually able to help people hear each other. Bless you. Most of all, this helps you have rapid progress. Right? Visuals is not just about drawing. We're talking words and pictures, symbols, icons, imagery, words and pictures. It's not all pictures. It's not picture charades. Guess, that's our company's strategy. It's not Pictionary. In fact, I was trying to draw something once. A team was saying they're going to stick their neck out. So I drew, I'm going to draw a giraffe, you know, that'll be smart ass. I'll draw a giraffe, and my giraffe starts looking like a llama or an alpaca. It's got a short neck and a fat body. It was just all over the place. But I just wrote the word giraffe, and everyone went, yeah, giraffe. So awesome thing happens in the brain. Visual, I'm not sure what that is. Word, oh, let me go looking for what that is. Visual, word, awesome. So go for 3-point communication. Using visuals, information retention and recall goes up about 30%. Deeper learning experience. So over the next 2 days, if you're not visually capturing your notes, you'll have a lesser experience than if you had captured using visuals. And if our brain can only hold 4 pieces of information at once, well, you're already screwed because you've had way more than 4 pieces of information at once. You have to capture it, you have to distill it and go for some sweet clarity. And most of all in groups, it boosts interaction and engagement. So if you're wanting more interaction and engagement, use some visual tools. If you're trying to shut them all up or get them focused, use visual tools. Mostly, I love how visuals will shorten meetings by about 25%. So you can have a shorter meeting and then nick off for a muffin and coffee, or as I like to do, I keep pushing through, and then the team gets more done and they say, wow, we're amazed at our progress. So reducing meeting time is powerful, but that means you can also get more done. Yeah, we use a few, we use visuals. Yeah, we've got some PowerPoint slides. Well, I personally think bullet points are bullshit. And I have blogged on the matter. It is live in the interwebs that I have commented on bullet points of bullshit. You'll see quite a few of them, but you see less of them at Agile conferences than any other conference. I think we should go in, sneak into some of the other conferences around here, stand up the back, shout, bullet points are bullshit, and then run out when we see them. Because linear is lazy. Right? Although we might like to sort and organise and have columns and structures for our work, it is not the most engaging way to connect with others across the organisation, across the business, across other industries. And so I think we need to go beyond lists and tables. We have enough data, we're good at that. I think bullet points are so much bullshit. Look out, she's going for brown. What's she gonna... Oh, I'm gonna draw a turd. There we go. And here it is. And there's some little flies. And they're lazy. It's just saying you haven't thought clearly enough about your content and distilled it enough. It's a little bit rushed. Go further. See how else you might be able to present that. In a second, we'll go through some tools that you can use. Because we have such a language of visibility. We have such a language that is visual. I see what you mean. Oh, I took this great photo. Show me. Look at this. Oh, I can imagine. What did it look like? Our language every day is full of visuals. One CEO I was working with, he wanted to help the team see what did good look like. Because they were shit. No, they weren't shit. They were struggling to step up their performance. So he had a list of... he had a list of 5 bullet points. This is what good looks like. And I said, Ron, you're trying to get people to lift up. Showing people what good looks like is not a lifting up thing. Bullet points are actually pushing down. I said showing what good looks like, stepping up, is actually something a bit more like this. And so we started to list out under each step what would, a little bit of good look like if we could get to this next level, and then what would the next bit of good look like, and the next bit of good look like. And so we took some bullshit bullet points and simply put them in a series of steps. And the team knew where they were going. So they've gone from uncertainty. Huh? What does good look like? To, I see what you mean. Now I know what good looks like. Oh, okay, we're not quite there yet, but we're going to keep going. So we have a very rich metaphorical language in Agile. A very rich language. We have visions and roadmaps, we have sprints and scrums. But I think we leave them locked in verbal language. We have rich metaphors and we need to open them up. I think metaphors are a great portal for progress. Metaphors are a great portal for progress, so don't leave them locked in the verbal, show me. Reveal them to me. Reflect back to me. And build them with me. An Agile coach I was working with, he said, man, working with this team, it feels like I'm waist deep in mud. Waist deep in mud. Great visual metaphor. We drew a little person and drowning in some mud. Let me put them over here. That's like a swamp. And this is how he felt, you know, he's like waist, well, that's sort of his waist there. We do need brown for that, don't we? That he felt waist deep in mud and really was just exasperated with what to do. So we just worked out, well, what is it? What's down here in the mud? What are the things that would start to free up this feeling that he had? That's the metaphor he was working with. I didn't go to a list of bullet points, but instead reflected the metaphor back. And then that became a live, living metaphor in the team, that we talked about swamps and bogs. And how are we going to get some good friction, some traction, so we could get out of this? And then one day, one of the team came in and said, I was watching Bear Grylls last night, and he got stuck in a swamp. And someone in the team said, yeah, did he drink camel piss too? No. But he was stuck in a swamp, and what he did was went very wide. Instead of going tight, he went wide, which meant he kind of reached out. And the team built on that metaphor and tried to reach out more to make progress easier. So that metaphor began to live on in that team. So I think we leave language trapped in metaphors and we have to release it. We have to reflect it back to people. You know, there were some Swiss Army officers out on a mission, on a hike in the Swiss Alps. And there they were, 1, 2, 3, 4, marching away, and it starts snowing. Slightly unseasonal, they perhaps weren't fully expecting it, but here they are in the Alps, it starts snowing. It ends up being a bit of a whiteout. Actually, let's make some black snow, just so you can see that their vision starts to get clouded, and they get lost. Army people getting lost in the snow. Anyway, they start bickering and fighting about how they're going to find their way from this uncertainty into certainty. Couldn't quite work out what to do. Anyway, a bit later on, one of the soldiers found in his thigh pocket, he found an old map. And it's like, yes, now we've got a map. Now we can find our way out. The team looked at it, worked on it, and they got themselves back on track and out to safety. Well, it turns out the map was for the Pyrenees, not the Alps. But it still got them to safety because they focused on something, they got working on a visual tool together, and they were able to get themselves to safety. And I think in the words of Carl Week, who wrote a great book called Sense Making in Organisations, he says, any old map will do. Any old map will do, in terms of making sense for people in uncertainty. So if you're bagging yourself about your drawing or visual capabilities, don't worry about it. Any old map will do to help people make sense of things. So a map, I believe, is really about being able to represent stuff. You know, I think we've got new age cartographers on our hands. Anyone here use the old globe at school, the pull-down map, or the atlas in their education? No, some saying it. And some of our mapping skills were lost, but with Google Maps and other mapping and location devices, I think we're breeding a new bunch of visual cartographers who are much happier with visual tools and visual maps. So it's the words and the icons together that help bring us some knowing and some understanding. Because listen to our language. Yeah, we talk about journeys, paths, tracks, milestones. All of this sort of language says we're visually mapping, we're visually capturing, and we're visually achieving something. So here's what I reckon sense making looks like. This is a serious model. So 3 stages to helping people get from uncertainty to certainty, to make sense of uncertainty, to get from unknown to known. And one of the first things we do, and we do it so well, is to think. I don't reckon we have too much trouble doing this. We're pretty good thinkers. And thinking enables us to visualise stuff and create things. So when we start to think together, we're able to create stuff together. Which leads us to the next stage, which is to map. Any old map will do. In sense making or making sense, we do this in retrospect. So once we see something, we're able to then make more sense of it. And there's a lovely saying that says, it's not until I see it that I know what it was about. Uncertainty. It's not until I see it that I know what it was about. Once I've got that map, I can then plan, implement something, which puts me deep in the action area. I can act. And as we know in this field, when we act, we've got something that we can reflect and learn from and iterate and improve, and around we go again. So sense making in your team, with your group, in an organisation, is think about stuff, sure, but get off your arse in that meeting and map stuff. Any old map will do. Help people get to grips with the uncertainty so that they're able to feel safer. They will contribute more. You will connect the dots for them. You'll show them the way, and their engagement will go up. A New Zealand university that I helped out with a visual, they were taking their IT department to cloud computing. What? Where's my desktop computer going to go? So the university staff, a lot of them freaking out a bit about what was happening. So we showed a map. We drew a line and said, this is where we are, this is what's next, and that's what will happen eventually. Then we can zoom in and go into the details. But thinking about it helps us create and visualise it, map it out. Then you're able to act on that and then iterate by learning and improving. You'll know more. Sense is made in retrospect. It's not until I see it that I know what it was about. So it's a little bit like trying to get hindsight. You know hindsight, you look back and everything makes total sense. So the differences around foresight and hindsight, up here, foresight, that's about projection, look into the future. Back here, hindsight. So how do we accelerate hindsight so we can learn from it quicker? And that's exactly what sense-making and visual sense-making does for you, is that you'll be able to get reflection quicker, you'll get to knowing quicker, and you'll get out of uncertainty quicker. So you'll need a fresh page in your notebook, get that pen, marker warmed up. And many of you will have noticed the rise in popularity of visuals. So there are sketch videos and there are moving scribes and there's graphic recording and sketchnoting and all of these visual skills that are coming back into vogue. But I think there's a deeper thing, is that people like human communication and live communication. You know what happens in live communication? While I'm drawing this, mirror neurons are firing off in your brain. And you are having the same experience as if you were drawing it. By watching this build-up, this reveal, what's going to happen next. So I think you need visual agility as part of your toolkit in communication. We want to go rapid, live and lo-fi. Don't worry about the quality of it. Are you ready? Shoulder rolls, wrist rolls. Get that marker going. Okie dokie. Let's draw a couple of the icons that I use every day, multiple times. A quick square kind of shape like that. Oh, look, I crossed over in the corner. Oh, the line's not perfectly clinically PowerPoint straight. Oh, it's human. It was just made and neurons are firing in your brain. That's what boosts engagement. Put a little diagonal line up the top there and join it down. Now you've got something that looks like a little book or a magazine, or you could put a Spiral down the side, got ourselves a little journal. I'll use that as a shape. I'll put words or content there rather than just writing bullshit bullet points, is to capture that sort of thing in an icon. Hey, do you remember drawing birds when you're at school? Give me two flying in formation and join them up. Now we've got that same piece of information or that same visual, but now it's open. Love using this visual, this icon, when there is a story to be told. A user story, a consumer story, a client story, or when you've got someone delivering their war and peace or their bleeding ears. I will still go to the board and flip chart or whiteboard and start to capture some of this content. A couple of the ones we did before, speech bubbles. You know, present consumer and user feedback in a speech bubble. The impact is dramatic compared to a bunch of bullet points or slides. So writing some of the key feedback out with a speech bubble around it, a hand-drawn speech bubble, gives a much more of a human feel. And the thought bubble, great for putting ideas or thoughts that aren't yet formed. Put them in this nebulous shape, we're not too sure yet. So one team I was working with where they were mapping out their Agile projects for the coming months, they said, look, we've got lots of delivery dates. What icon could we put? What visual could we use for delivery? And one of them said, I know, draw a picture of a guy on a motorbike carrying a pizza. Good luck with that. That's a fucking hard thing to draw. That's three things. A guy on a motorbike holding a pizza for delivery. Yeah, pizza sounds good, but I know I've got an icon that I can draw while I talk that takes so little brain power. An envelope. And so they've now got under their delivery column, they've got a picture of an envelope and put their envelope on lots of little post-it notes when they need to indicate something to do with delivery. Of course, the smart ass in the group did come up to me later and go, here's a picture of a guy on a motorbike with a pizza. And it was a pretty good drawing. But it's not about the quality of the drawing. It really doesn't matter. And if you don't know what to draw, but you've got some keywords, try a sign. It's a sign. What this shape does, it just gives people focus. We're talking about getting to some certainty from uncertainty. Point people in the direction that you're going. Show them where things are. Show them what some of the milestones are. And I think a high value visual, what's the global symbol for innovation? Light bulb. Right, we're going to have to draw one of those. I think this is a high impact visual. It goes like this. Squiggle, 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 circle, squiggle, dash, dash, dash. Squiggle, 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 circle, squiggle, dash, dash, dash. So whenever anyone's got an idea, I will go ninja strokes, quick, get them up there. So squiggle, squiggle, squiggle for the screw-in bit, the light globe, the squiggle inside for the element, and those lines around the outside, they're called emphasis lines. They show energy or life, and they attract more attention. We can borrow stuff like that from the world of cartoonists. So just a few little emphasis lines can help pick that information up for you. So still, if you're thinking, oh yeah, but my drawing's shit, or no, I can't draw, it's not about you. It's not about you. New Zealand corporate anthropologist Michael Henderson says that to be greater members of our tribe or our team, that we should be more attention out, not attention in. Attention in is, my drawing shit, that doesn't look so good, it's all about me, I'm not doing it. It doesn't serve people. Michael says, give your attention out. Be of service to the group and the team. I need to get this information down. Any old map will do. Any old map will do to give people focus, to show them what was uncertain, we actually have some certainty about it. This is the current reality. We still don't know some of this stuff, but this is where you are now. So be more attention out. All right, are you ready? I want you to give me 20 squares, and I'm going to read out, we're going to play the speed sketch game, and I'm going to read out the names of some little objects, or some big objects, in fact, some objects, and I'll get you to sketch them quickly, low fidelity. We'll do it fast, we'll do it live. And I'll get you to just sketch them quickly, and then you'll have 20 icons that you can use after today as symbols for things, often totally unrelated to the meaning. A small visual anchor holds a weight of information. You really don't need to use much. So you ready? 20 speed sketch game. I'm not drawing them, you are. Are you ready? Here's the first one. A flag. A flag. Which one? An arrow. An arrow. A bucket. A candle. A paper clip. Paper clip. Are you sort of going, that didn't quite turn out how I was thinking? That's all right, let's persist. A pencil. A pencil. A clock. Clock. A compass. Compass. I'll just pause for a moment. Those that are playing along, you are building incredible muscle memory. Those that are sitting there going, oh, when will this be over? You're not giving your brain the opportunity to rewire. A compass was the last one. Fence. A fence. A coffee cup. A coffee or a coffee cup. Do you know that there were two guys who travelled the world and researched thousands of people's views on how they would draw a coffee cup? Quickly, compare your drawing to the person next to you of a coffee cup. Overwhelmingly, they found similarities. The world over, people draw coffee cups in very similar ways. Come on, we've got a few more, because we've got to get out of here. A ship. Excuse my accent, a ship. I'll try and put it on a bit better for you. A knife and fork. A ladder. A snake. A door. Some glasses. Seeing glasses. A television. A carrot. And finally, some lotto balls, Tats Lotto balls. And you should have 20 icons there. That's a speed sketch game. 19, you want one more? An inverted triangle. Isosceles, what sort? Yes, uncertainty. So just to wrap up, I want to show you some ways that you can not just draw visuals but facilitate with these visuals, and that is to use some templates. If you're talking journeys with people, why not map out for them what the horizon looks like? couple of diagonal lines, a horizon line and the sun up into the future. That gives you just some lines where you can capture content or put sticky post-it notes around that. But we know that not every path is straight, so go for windy paths as well. Show people where the signposts are along the way. Rather than bullet points are bullshit, maybe it's a process. Maybe there are a series of things that fit like that. Or similar to Ron, who was trying to show a lift in performance. That's a template. Talk about what's above the line, what's below the line. Write that on that board, the flip chart, the page. Again, rather than bullet points are bullshit, show a pathway that might bend and turn and list out your points. Like the Swiss army folks stuck on mountains in the snow, show people how big and long the journey is. And if you're talking about growth, well, don't we know it? Trees grow. You can put content in all of these places. There are so many different tools and techniques to visually represent things, and I just don't think we use the metaphor, the language, strongly, clearly enough. I hope today is kind of the first day of us getting to know each other, because I'd love to have a long-term relationship with you. After today, I'd like to share these slides with you, and I've got 30 icons that you can practice and share, which I'd love to send out to you, and also a little mini book called Making Sense. The big book's coming out soon, but the mini book is called Making Sense. This really is about the rise of the authentic. This is a visual I did recently about leaders needing to get real. And there's some other visuals where I've mapped complex content, such as Simon Sinek's talk, Start With Why. Just Google that image and you'll see one of my visuals. It's had some real viral power. Lots of people, it's resonated with them. Same with this sort of thing. And some work that's coming up, I'm doing helping some Microsoft folks get some great visuals together on the whole DevOps area to explain that. So help people work out where they are, help them orientate themselves. Most of all, visuals help people hear each other. Visuals help people hear each other. Bullet points are bullshit. People want to know that they matter and that what they've contributed has been heard, that they've been noticed, that they've been understood, and that they're safe and they can contribute some more. So help people orient themselves as to where they are. And in the great words of Jesse Robbins, who's a cool software guy, he says, don't fight stupid. No, it takes too much energy to fight stupid. He says, don't fight stupid, yield, shift, pivot, go make more awesome. Go.
Thank you very much, Lynne. We've got time for maybe one or two questions. Have we got any questions? And
I'm here for 2 days, so please come on up any time.
One question, Jan.
Can I draw a paper clip? I can, but you know what? I'm not going to get into that game. I want you to go ask other people about, can I see your paper clip? And you'll pick up some cool angles on what they've done, how they've done it. But I'll tell you what, I'll send you a bunch of icons. I'll make sure there's a paper clip in there.
Any other? Oh, yep.
Do you ever find yourself getting stuck and not knowing what to draw in front of a group of people, and what do you do in that situation?
They won't.
Do you ever find yourself getting stuck, a bit of mental block when you're trying to...
Yeah, absolutely. And here's what I draw. So I'll create a new screen. So if I don't know what to do, I pick up a marker and I stride over to the whiteboard or flip chart and I draw this. And the room hushes. And everyone looks at the circle. Focus. You know, I've just focused everybody on something. So I'll often draw a circle, but I use that with a team who were arguing and bickering over what was in and out of scope. The stuff that was in scope, we wrote here. The stuff that was out of scope, we wrote around here. And then we worked out the bits that we were really bickering about. And there were only 2 or 3 bits, and we got those nailed real quick. Meeting done, out of the room, back to good stuff. Draw a circle if you don't know what to do. They're lovely, kind of harmonious shapes.
Cool. Any other questions? I think. No? Okay, I think we're going to wrap up. It's pretty pushing the time. I think we all agree we're probably not going to look at bullet points in the same light any longer. But I think also when we're doing some introspection, maybe we need to reflect on whether we're going to brighten up the room by leaving it. So that's another gem I took away as well. Cool. All right, just please put your hands together and say thanks.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks.